December 28, 2025. While the world celebrated the holidays, democracy died in Southeast Asia, and nobody noticed. This woman is voting in what international observers are calling the most fraudulent election in modern history. But she has no choice. Vote for the military or disappear. Outside every polling station in Myanmar, soldiers with assault rifles. Inside, ballot boxes already stuffed before polls even opened. This is what a Chinese-backed coup looks like in 2025. Her name is Aung San Suu Kyi, Nobel Peace Prize winner, democratically elected leader. She's been in prison for 4 years. Her crime: winning an election the military didn't like. Let me show you what they took from Myanmar. On the left, 2015, free elections, celebrating crowds, hope. On the right, 2025, military checkpoints, fear, a nation held hostage. But this isn't just about Myanmar. This is about China's master plan to control Asia, and it's working. What you're about to see is the biggest geopolitical story nobody's talking about. A fake election, 500,000 dead, and the birth of Asia's newest dictatorship. My name is your name, and this is how China installed a puppet regime in Myanmar while the world looked away. Let me take you back to where this nightmare began. February 1st, 2021, 3 a.m., Myanmar's military storms the capital. General Min Aung Hlaing. Remember this face. He's the man who killed Myanmar's democracy in a single night, and he did it with a phone call to Beijing. Within hours, hundreds of thousands pour into the streets, peaceful protests, singing, dancing, demanding their democracy back. Even Buddhist monks joined the resistance. In Myanmar, when monks protest, you know something is deeply wrong. The military's response: live ammunition. Over 3,000 civilians killed in the first year alone, shot in the streets for demanding freedom. But the violence against protesters was just the beginning. What they did to the Rohingya was genocide. And I need to warn you, what comes next is disturbing. Entire villages burned to the ground. The UN called it ethnic cleansing with genocidal intent. Over 700,000 Rohingya forced to flee to Bangladesh. This child survived, barely. Her village was destroyed, her family killed. She's one of millions the world forgot. Mass graves are still being discovered, thousands executed and buried in ditches. This is what happens when the world ignores a genocide. So why did the world ignore it? Because China made sure we did. And China had very specific reasons for backing this military junta. When General Min Aung Hlaing needed international support, only one leader answered: Xi Jinping. This handshake sealed Myanmar's fate. Within weeks of the coup, Chinese military equipment started flowing across the border. Weapons, surveillance systems, riot control gear, everything a dictatorship needs. Here's what China really wants. It's called the Belt and Road Initiative, and Myanmar is the missing piece in China's plan to dominate Asia. Look at this port, Kyaukphyu. China invested $7.3 billion to build it. It gives them direct access to the Indian Ocean, bypassing the Malacca Strait entirely. This pipeline carries oil and gas from the Middle East directly into China, completely avoiding American-controlled sea lanes. Myanmar is China's back door to energy security. The Malacca Strait, 80% of China's oil passes through this narrow choke point. In a war with America, the U.S. Navy could blockade it in hours, China's worst nightmare. But with Myanmar under control, China has an alternative route. This is why they'll never let Myanmar be free. It's too strategically valuable. China also sold Myanmar advanced surveillance technology, facial recognition, AI monitoring, the same tech used to oppress Uyghurs in Xinjiang. Chinese military advisors train Myanmar soldiers, sharing tactics, sharing intelligence, building an authoritarian alliance right on India's doorstep. The military's next move: eliminate all opposition. They started by burning down the headquarters of Aung San Suu Kyi's party, erasing democracy itself. Journalists were hunted down, their equipment destroyed. Myanmar dropped to 171st out of 180 countries for press freedom. Truth became a crime. Pro-democracy activists went underground, printing leaflets in secret, risking execution to keep hope alive. This is what resistance looks like under tyranny. The internet was shut down, Facebook banned, VPNs criminalized. The military wanted complete control over information, digital dictatorship. But Myanmar isn't just one ethnicity. It's a patchwork of ethnic groups who have been fighting the military for decades. And after the coup, they exploded into open warfare. The Karen National Liberation Army, fighting since 1949. They control vast territories in eastern Myanmar. The military can't defeat them. The Kachin Independence Army, operating in the mountains near China, battle-hardened, well-armed. They've been holding their ground for 60 years. Villages caught in the crossfire, airstrikes, artillery, chemical weapons. The military uses scorched earth tactics against its own people. Over 2 million people displaced inside Myanmar, living in camps, no food, no medicine, no hope, a humanitarian catastrophe. The monsoon season turns camps into swamps, cholera outbreaks, malaria, children dying from preventable diseases while the world watches. Clinics overwhelmed, medicine runs out within days, international aid blocked by the military. They're weaponizing humanitarian suffering. Which brings us to December 28, 2025, Election Day. The military promised a return to democracy. They lied. Every step monitored by soldiers, every vote watched, international observers banned. This isn't an election, it's theater. Some polling stations received ballots already marked for military-backed candidates. Election fraud doesn't get more blatant than this. Opposition candidates, most are in prison. Those who aren't were banned from running. You can't lose an election if nobody's allowed to run against you. Fake names, dead people voting. Some districts reported 110% turnout. Mathematically impossible, statistically absurd, completely fraudulent. Hidden cameras captured military personnel stuffing ballot boxes with hundreds of pre-marked ballots. This is the smoking gun of election fraud. State media declared a landslide military victory before counting even finished. 80% they claimed. Exit polls showed the opposite. Nobody believes them. The military doesn't care. They control the message. Giant billboards showing generals as saviors, Orwellian propaganda on every street. Behind the scenes at state television, scripts written by military censors, anchors reading lies at gunpoint. Truth is whatever the military says it is. International media immediately called it out. CNN, BBC, Al Jazeera, everyone except Chinese state media condemned the fake election. The United Nations Security Council met to discuss sanctions, and then China did what it always does. China vetoed every resolution. Russia joined them. Myanmar's military dictatorship is untouchable because Beijing protects them. Western sanctions are meaningless. The military doesn't care about being banned from trading with Europe when China buys everything they produce. To celebrate their election victory, the military held a massive parade. Every weapon system on display came from China: tanks, fighter jets, missiles. But the people didn't give up. Resistance forces now control nearly 40% of Myanmar's territory. This is a civil war the military is slowly losing. Armed with homemade weapons and captured equipment, People's Defense Forces fight back. Farmers and students turned guerrilla fighters. They've even started using drones. Commercial drones modified to drop explosives. Modern warfare tactics learned from watching Ukraine. Urban guerrilla warfare in Yangon. hit-and-run attacks, ambushes. The military is terrified to patrol at night. The resistance is winning hearts and minds. In liberated territories, people are building alternative governments, democratic councils, fair courts, free elections, proving democracy works when given the chance. Myanmar's national unity government operates in hiding, a shadow parliament, legitimate representatives elected in 2020 who refuse to surrender. They've gotten creative with funding, cryptocurrency donations from around the world, Bitcoin and Ethereum flowing to the resistance, modern revolution, modern financing. Encrypted messaging apps teach people how to organize, protest, and resist safely. Signal, Telegram. The military can't stop the spread of information anymore. Meanwhile, weapons dealers from Thailand and India quietly supply the resistance. Black market arms flowing across borders, regional powers hedging their bets. Refugees flood into Thailand, hundreds of thousands crossing rivers and mountains, entire families fleeing. Thailand doesn't want them but can't stop them. India's border with Myanmar is overwhelmed, thousands trying to enter daily. New Delhi faces a refugee crisis it didn't plan for. ASEAN, Southeast Asia's main diplomatic bloc, has completely failed Myanmar. Toothless statements, zero action. Myanmar's chair sits empty at summits. Compare Myanmar to Taiwan. Both faced pressure from authoritarian neighbors. Taiwan remained free. Myanmar fell. The difference? International resolve. China now has military installations all along Myanmar's border with India, surrounding India from another angle. New Delhi is worried. Myanmar's mountains hide some of the world's largest rare earth mineral deposits, critical for electronics, smartphones, electric vehicles. China controls them now. The jade mines of Kachin State produce billions in revenue. Chinese companies buy everything. Blood jade funding the military while Chinese consumers wear it. Myanmar is also the world's second largest opium producer. Methamphetamine floods into China. The military profits. Chinese gangs distribute it. Narco-state economics. Dirty money is laundered through Myanmar's banks into China's financial system. Billions in illicit funds. The corruption is systemic and international. But there is hope. The International Criminal Court has issued arrest warrants for military leaders. Justice may be slow, but it's coming. Evidence is being collected, testimonies documented, photos of massacres, videos of war crimes, building cases that will stand in court. Arrest warrants for General Min Aung Hlaing and 15 other senior commanders. They can't travel internationally. They're isolated. They're trapped. Every year, massive candlelight vigils remember those killed fighting for democracy. The resistance hasn't forgotten. Myanmar hasn't given up. In secret locations, teachers run underground schools, teaching children real history, not military propaganda, keeping truth alive for the next generation. Artists spray resistance symbols on walls at night, three-finger salutes, messages of hope. The military paints over them. They reappear the next night. Activists maintain encrypted archives, every crime documented, every atrocity recorded. When Myanmar is finally free, the evidence will be waiting. Let me show you Myanmar's trajectory. 10 years of democratic progress from 2010 to 2020. Then a sudden violent regression. 4 years of hell. This didn't have to happen. Aung San Suu Kyi's Nobel Peace Prize sits in Oslo, a reminder of what was possible, what was stolen, what must be reclaimed. Young activists in exile are planning, organizing, training. They will return to Myanmar, and when they do, they'll bring democracy with them. 2 possible futures for Myanmar. Path 1, continued dictatorship, Chinese puppet state, eternal oppression. Path 2, resistance victory, democracy restored, freedom reclaimed. In jungle bases across Myanmar, the resistance flag still flies. bullet holes and all. It represents something the military can never kill: hope. From New York to London to Tokyo, protesters march for Myanmar every week. The world hasn't completely forgotten. Global solidarity still exists. Watch as light spreads across the map. Every liberated territory, every resistance victory. Darkness is losing. It's slow, it's bloody, but freedom is winning. Here's what you can do. Support Myanmar's national unity government. Donate to resistance funds. Share their stories. Pressure your government to act. This isn't over. Myanmar's story is still being written. The military thought they won, but 54 million people disagree, and history is on their side. Behind every statistic is a human being fighting for freedom, journalists documenting truth at risk of death. This is their story. This is Myanmar's story. Remember December 28th, 2025, the day China tried to legitimize its puppet dictatorship, the day the world called it out, the day Myanmar refused to surrender.